Well, welcome, everybody. It's Dr. Nicole. I have a question for you. Are you too controlling in your relationship? Right. And the way you might know this is you know it in your gut because you feel yourself exhausted from trying to control everything, or your partner has told you or they have behaved in a way that lets you know you are being over controlling. So let's dig into it. Again, thanks for joining this video and watching the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up and like button, and don't forget to hit the notifications bell. Okay, so I know we talk a lot about being high achieving women and what it takes to get there. And usually it takes being excellent, right? And this is something that comes up with a lot of the women that I work with in my coaching programs. They are high achievers, they are excellent at what they do. They feel like they have been able to portray an image of being in control, of being, black girl magic, like just being all of that. They know their worth, so on and so forth. But what we don't often talk about is what is the cost of that when you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable with yourself, right? So you're keeping up this image of being perfect, of having it all together, and you don't ask for help. And then also, what is the cost in terms of your relationship when you deal with things by trying to control them all the time? Right. And I said, the way you will know that you're being over controlling is one, you may be exhausted from trying to fix everything in the relationship or with your partner. You're constantly frustrated with them because they're not doing things the way you think they should be done. And you're just like, well, why would he do that? You know what I mean? The other way that you may know is that your partner either will tell you directly or they will give you signs. And the whole infamous when women talk about their man is pulling back, he's not stepping up, he's not leading, right? They notice the shift. Well, some of that could be a reaction to you trying to over control things, trying to over fix things, or trying to be perfect yourself or have things be perfect. And what that does is it can create tension, it can create resentment on your part, and it can also create a sense of not having space for vulnerability, which makes you all feel disconnected. So, one thing you have to know is that when you learn to let go of control, you actually open the door to allow a more fulfilling connection and more intimacy. Basically, bottom line, your relationship improves, but you have to be patient and go through the process. There's a lot of unlearning that you're going to have to do, and there's also a lot of unlearning that your partner is going to have to do because some of us, and this is what the women that I work with talk about, they're like, what kind of monster have I created? I have been over controlling in my relationship, and now my man just falls back and he's used to me like taking care of everything. And so there's going to have to be a lot of unlearning on your part. There's going to have to be a lot of unlearning on their part. And there's going to have to be some discussions, but most importantly, patience and having grace for yourself, right? It's okay that you got into this pattern. Now it's about how to get out of it. So I'm going to give you three things that are going to help you to stop being so controlling in your. So if you're serious about having more balance in your relationship and really leaning into and resting in your femininity, you are going to have to tackle this control issue. Okay. And some of it is really learning to understand the root of it for you. And we're going to get to that. Right. So the first thing is, I'm going to give you three things. The first thing is you have to really learn to let your partner be who he is. Right. You have to learn to accept the same way you want to be accepted. You have to understand that your way is not the only way. And if you decided you've committed to someone, you've decided to be with them, you have to commit to accepting who they are, right? First and foremost, change will never happen if you're trying to force it. So if you want a different way of relating or communicating in your relationship, the first step is to stop trying to control it, stop trying to force it. Let that person be. allow him to be, right? That's the first thing. You really have. So, what does it look like to just let your partner be? It means changing your mindset, and it means stop nitpicking every little thing, right? A lot of times we will actually see our partner as just another, like a kid or someone else that we have to control, which we shouldn't be trying to control people anyway. But we kind of have that mind frame. So it's really about changing your mindset and stop and to learn to accept that your way is not the only way. It might be the best way for you, but that doesn't mean absolutely it's the best way, and you got to make him come and do things your way, right? It's really allowing him to be, learning to stop nitpicking, and really learning why it's uncomfortable for you when he does something or when someone does something differently than how you do it, right? So that kind of relates to point number 3 that I'm going to get to. But it's really let your partner be. Let him be him. It's really about adopting a mindset and an attitude of acceptance. That is key. The second thing, in order to stop being so controlling in your relationship, is to be gentler with yourself. Be softer with yourself. It's an inside job, ladies, right? Be softer with yourself and have more grace and understanding for yourself. So, a lot of times, if you are very controlling in your relationship, you've grown up with the idea that you have to be perfect, you can't make mistakes, that your achievement, you're constantly proving your worth through how good you are, getting a pat on the head for doing things the right way versus being validated and knowing that your worth comes from just being you. So you, in a way, you have to accept yourself before you can even really accept your partner, right? Because a lot of times we're nitpicking, we're controlling, we're critical of our partners because we're doing that with ourselves. So you really have to learn to let down that veil of perfection, of being perfect, of never making a mistake, of being the most worthy because you've achieved the most, right? Look at one of my last posts where I said too many of us are overachieving, overworked, and overweight, meaning we are constantly on this hamster wheel of trying to get to the top, but we're not right within, right? So, number 2 is learning to handle yourself, be softer with yourself, have more grace for yourself, and to be more understanding. And that's going to allow you to be able to do that with your partner. Okay. And number 3 is that's the part where you're really trying to understand the roots, because most people are over controlling because they were over controlled as children, or they somehow got the message that in order to avoid pain or in order to obtain love and affection and attention, they had to perform, and they had to perform perfectly and do it well. They couldn't just be them, right? They had to prove their worth. So, really trying to understand the roots for you. Did you grow up in a household where you only got affection, or you only got a chance to have fun or to experience joy if you proved or you somehow had to work for it, right? And as a child, if you had to work for love and affection, or you had to work or prove that you shouldn't be criticized or made to feel badly about yourself, then that creates a whole expectation that you have of yourself and other people in relationships. It's basically saying that a person has to prove their worth, including you. So when you find yourself in situations where you might be nitpicking, you might be ready to pounce and criticize um, your husband or your partner because they're not doing it right, try to pause, right? And usually when we're about to criticize, when you start to really get good at self-reflection, when you're about to criticize, you will feel something either in your body, or you'll have a thought. You will feel something that is like you're uncomfortable, or you're irritated, you're frustrated, you're mad. When you start to have that feeling, the best thing you can do is pause. Before you're about to go and give a correction or give a criticism or even give a suggestion, because sometimes our suggestions are another form of control. So you can pause and ask yourself, why am I about to do this? Why do I really need to do this, right? Like there's this whole debate about the toilet paper. If you've seen that, how you put the toilet paper on. But just think about things in your household that you might be having little nitpicky disputes about. And you might be like, well, why can't they just do that for me? Well, we will come to that part, right? That's when we get into the feminine communication. But for the moment, understand that trying to force someone to do something for you is not going to work. They have to want to do it, but also you have to learn how to draw out of people the desire for them to do the best for you. Okay. And some of that is by trying not to force it, trying not to control it. So when you notice yourself about to go in, either real forcefully or even subtly, pause and ask yourself, why? Is it necessary? Do you have to do this, right? What are you good enough? Are you okay if it's not perfect? And when you start to do that over and over and over, there's this interesting thing where the more you stop pushing, the more you draw to you, right? You want to stop the behaviors that push your partner away, and you want to learn the behaviors that make you feel good inside, but also that draw your partner to you. Okay. So remember those three things. Let your partner be. Learn to have more grace and acceptance for yourself, and pause and become self-aware when you're in the mode of trying to control, and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Pause and ask and see if you cannot do it, right? Make the decision that you're not going to give that criticism. If they did something for you, be grateful and thankful that they did it. And this is not about settling for less. This is not about letting someone walk all over you. See, those are scarcity mindset um, fears. Those are fear-based thoughts that we tend to have in our relationship. Well, if it's not perfect this time and I let it slide, then he's going to always mess it up or do it halfway. But then you're in a mode of treating someone like a child. And when you treat your husband, you treat your mate like a child, then they begin to act like a child. And you get into that imbalance where you're more in the masculine. And this is the other point I want to make about this. This comes up a lot in my coaching. Sometimes we, being in a receiving mode, we say we want to be provided for and protected. We want to be in receiving mode, but that puts us in a vulnerable place that a lot of us are uncomfortable with. So we go back into our comfort zone, which is being in control, being the leader, being bossy, being the one to give. And sometimes we even try to control through our giving and through our nurturing, because it sometimes has strings attached to it. So learning to fall back, get out of the comfort zone of control, and be okay with um knowing that sometimes receiving is going to feel a little bit vulnerable for you, but it's for the best for you. Okay. So I'm wishing you happy no controlling in your relationship. I want you to tell me in the comments below, what does control look like in your relationship, and try these three things and tell me how they're working for you. Okay. Again, this is Dr. Nicole. Thank you so much for joining the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, like, and share this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.